When the chaos of popular culture makes your brain hurt, you really need belief in the form of a transfusion of analysis and humor. It's time for a Poperation. Join hosts Eric and Stacey as they dissect popular culture one bloody organ at a time. It's just what the doctor ordered.
You're listening to Poperation. I'm Stacey.
I'm Eric. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you.
Here we are.
It is the most
commercialized time of the year.
Oh, touche on that.
You know, here we go.
Yeah, you're right. So we're talking about holiday movies because now it's like they're everywhere.
Tis the
they're
season.
Everywhere.
Tis the season. And you're allowed to, right? Christmas music.
Why? Why? You say you're allowed to have 8,000 gajillion holiday movies. Why?
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't saying you're allowed to have 8,000 cajillion because most of them suck. But you're allowed to watch. This is the time where I'm allowed. Mm-hmm. I allow myself to indulge in holiday-themed things during December.
Why?
I'm not going to...
Do you think we like doing that? Because everybody, clearly, they're popular. Everybody loves doing
Well,
that.
it takes you back, right? I mean, when you're a kid, there really is, magic involved in this whole thing. If you think that a man's going to come down your chimney and leave presents for you, and you hear about flying reindeer and elves that make you toys and, all the kind of, there's a wonder and there's just a real innocence around. And you need that because it's cold outside. And, so what do cultures do? They put together these wonderful kind of, homey feeling holidays. Now, I said before, when we did our Thanksgiving show, Thanksgiving is actually my favorite holiday.
Right.
Mostly because it doesn't have all this commercialization stuff around it.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to watch It's a Wonderful Life, I'm going to do it in December. Mm. I don't want to be anywhere near that movie in June because it doesn't belong.
Right.
In the same way I don't listen to a lot of Beach Boys in January. I do that because that feels like summertime music. So that, if I don't listen to a lot of Beach Boys, but
Well, I think you're not alone because you're right. There's so many movies out there that and what I think they're trying to do is they're trying to create that feeling in adults. Because some of this is kids' movies, but a lot of it is really geared toward adults to feel that specialness about
nostalgia,
the holiday
pure
season.
Nostalgia.
So the big one everybody knows is that when Hallmark Channel on TV comes out with it used to be 25 Days of Christmas. I don't know how many it is now because I think it starts early. But they would come out with at least 5 to 7 new movies every year. Mm-hmm. So now they have this huge library and they're like 24/7 playing.
And I've never seen one of them, but aren't they like Harlequin romances?
They are very much like this. But I would like to read you some of the titles.
Oh God!
It's 1 page long. I promise I'll speed through. But I just want to let you know that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
Yeah, we've already talked about the Titanic.
I'm ready. Go.
Marry Me at Christmas, Miss Christmas, The Sweetest Christmas, Enchanted Christmas, Going Home for Christmas, A Coming Home for Christmas, A Gift to Remember, Secretly Santa, Mistletoe Inn, Finding Santa, The Christmas Train, Switched for Christmas, Christmas in Evergreen, Christmas at Holly Lodge, Father Christmas, Christmas Getaway, When the Calls the Heart, The Christmas Wishing Tree, Evergreen Inn, I already say that, Kiss for the New Year, Never Too Late for Christmas, Snow Globe Wishes, Magical Christmas Ornaments, Christmas Cottage, Christmas Castle, Engaging Father Christmas, Unbridled Love, which is weird.
Dear.
When God Winks at You. What? Welcome Home, Warrior.
Hashtag Me Too, God.
That was funny. Welcome Home, Warrior. A Song for Christmas, Maggie's Miracle, Angel Falls, Christmas Shuttles, Good Sam, A Bramble House Christmas, Christmas for Joy, Christmas Sister Swap, Marry Me at Christmas, and Finding Santa.
Finding Santa was on there twice. Christmas Sister Swap. That sounds dirty.
It sounds twins. Twins. I guarantee it's twins.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't seen it. I have no idea of the plot for any of these. They all have basically the same plot.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's Christmas time, and
Yeah, and it's misunderstood stuff.
Yes, and we look adorable in our Santa hats, and the snow is falling because snow falls on like 3 states by Christmas Day in the USA, but nonetheless.
It's not Christmas, so it's not snowing somewhere, even if on your TV. I mean, and again, clearly, there are a lot of people who want that same feeling.
Ugh.
And so this makes it popular.
Yeah.
Because it's a moneymaker.
Yeah.
Advertisers are like, get me another Christmas movie.
And they're wholesome, romantic things that
Yes,
I imagine moms watch with their 12-year-old daughters.
Yep.
And, you know, it's Christmas time. So
you can have it on during the cookie baking day.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think...
And you can miss 3 scenes, and you can pick it right up, I'm sure, and not have really missed anything in terms of crucial plot points that now the movie doesn't make sense anymore. I'm sure that doesn't happen.
But I think, you know...
Such a snob.
I'm such a snob, You're a little
Stacey.
Bit of an elitist. A little bit.
Coastal elite.
Hashtag.
Yep.
So that's that's the Hallmark channel.
Yep.
And so there are those on television that are always happening. But there are like theatrical release movies that are Christmassy, and because they work, they then, you know, go for sequels.
Okay.
For example, The Santa Claus.
The Santa Claus with an E.
Yes.
Tim Allen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There were 3 of those because it was, you know, and again, Christmas Story, you know, there's a Christmas Story in there because it's Santa.
Yep.
And so they just kind of keep, I mean, they changed it each time they did it, but there is, you know, it came out at Thanksgiving of that year.
Yep.
So people are ready for that. It's really interesting. So the timing of everything, but also Die Hard.
Which is such an interesting, that's a Christmas movie. I love the fact that that's a Christmas movie.
But there are a lot of guys and gals too. But it's a lot of it's a Christmas movie.
I mean, it takes place around the holidays, so there's
every
holiday
single time.
stuff. But there's also it's an action movie about a dude who, you know, crawls out of an elevator shaft. So that there's that too. It's an action movie. Which, if I were gonna, you know, if I had to say, okay, we're going to watch a Christmas movie, I would applaud whoever would choose Die Hard and say, this is the one we're going to watch. Awesome. Because it's not, you know, a Bramble fucking House Christmas or whatever the hell that was. Oh my God.
I know.
No. You know, Christmas Cottage.
House. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
No, but here's the thing. Here's what I think happened.
Christmas sister swap.
I think that Die Hard, okay, it happened and it took place at Christmas. Now, they were going to come out with a sequel once it was such a huge hit.
Sure.
And I'm just guessing here. I'm going to say they said, for fun, let's make it Christmas again. Once they did that, done. Yep. It's now Christmas lexicon.
Which is hysterical.
I think it is hysterical.
Great choice. I mean, I applaud that completely. And
then, of course, A Christmas Carol, Dickens' Christmas Carol, which has been redone and re-visualized 8,000 times.
Yep. What's your favorite? Who's your favorite Scrooge?
I'll be honest with you. The one that I really enjoyed, Bill Murray Scrooged.
Okay, yeah, the different take on it. It's not the typical Dickens because it's a TV executive kind of
You're talking about old school Scrooge?
Or Bill Murray's a perfectly valid choice. Yeah. I go between Albert Finney and Patrick Stewart.
I would lean a little toward Patrick just because the acting style. But yeah,
Albert Finney's just so perfect for Scrooge, like because he's both. I really believe him when he's a curmudgeonly asshole, but then I also believe him when he softens up because he's Daddy Warbucks. You know that whole piece comes out.
Albert Finney is a great actor.
He's a good actor, and you know what? Scrooge is a really great role. I mean, for an actor to play, because you really do get to be that, you know, horrible, hateful person, but then at the end you have to scoop up Tiny Tim and, you know. But
you also have to look at and you know, I brought up Scrooge, but there's also all sorts of iterations. I mean, there's Barbie, A Christmas Carol. There is, I remember...
what?
Ew.
Yeah,
there's also Barbie the Nutcracker, which, by the way, the Barbie movies, they are not as bad. The worst, I'm going to say this.
I'm judging you so hard right now.
I'm aware, and I can see it in your eyes, but here's what I want to say. When the Barbie movies first started coming out, my daughters were at the perfect age that I wanted to see them.
Okay.
Here's what I'm saying. Rapunzel was the first one, and it's awful. So I say, if anybody's going to start getting into them, which I don't suggest, but I'm going to say, if you do... ignore Barbie as Rapunzel and jump immediately into The Princess and the Pauper. This
is not where I thought this conversation was going to go.
I don't want to leave it here, but I just want wanted to say. And then, I mean, they get into the fairies and things like that later on. Ignore those, but they did Princess
Okay, how the hell does
Pauper.
Parby do the Christmas Carol? That's what I need to know. Like, who is Scrooge? Is she Scrooge? Is Barbie a version of Ebenezer Scrooge?
Yes, I think so. I'm trying to remember because I'm getting them all confused right now because there's also the Barbie and the Nutcracker. So
Which I can see. The Nutcracker revolves around a ballerina, so that makes sense.
But yeah, but there was also, here's another one, Vanessa Williams. Did you ever see her Christmas Carol?
Yes.
See, there are a lot of iterations.
That works.
And I think that
The Muppets did a lovely Christmas Carol.
There you go. And that was Michael Caine.
Yes.
That was Michael Caine.
He was a good Scrooge.
He was a good Scrooge.
You know, and I love the fact that, you know, when Kermit and Miss Piggy had children, all the boys were little frogs and all the girls were little pigs. Kind of, it worked out the same way that Lady and the Tramp. When they had children, all of their female children were purebred Cocker Spaniels. And all of their male children were, you know, mutts. It's strange. You know, little kids don't know how reproduction really works. So it's just kind of,
it's also a cartoon. As I say to my children, not a documentary.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, we keep bringing these stories back.
We
it's
do.
The whole point.
Mm-hmm.
And Charles Dickens was hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is something about it that takes us back to a time.
And yet, when Charles Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol, was he doing something kind of revolutionary by bringing like the whole horror story into? No, he wasn't.
I'll tell you why it wasn't revolutionary. That's what the Brits do.
Yeah.
That's what they do. Have you ever seen Woman in Black, the play?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Well, I saw the Daniel Radcliffe movie.
Okay. Well, I directed the play once, but I guess they're similar. I didn't see the movie one. But the deal is that at the beginning, the guy is telling a Christmas ghost story because that was a tradition.
Okay.
So that is a tradition in British Christmas.
Wow, they're dark.
To tell their weather. It's their weather.
Well, that's true.
But that was a
foggy moors and all that.
It's not American, but it is British.
Okay.
And that's why, no, he wasn't revolutionary in that way.
Okay.
But yes, but that was
But
the
it's
thing.
the most famous of the kind of Christmassy ghost stories that have ever happened. Yeah.
Because maybe it's because it's, I don't know.
And Jacob Marley with the chain still kind of freaks me out a little bit. I get a little tingly. I'm not going to lie.
It's very spooky. If you just read it straight on, it's a very scary idea and concept. But so anyway, all right, we're calling it a classic. What makes a classic? What do you think?
Well, a classic is anything that people want to revisit over and over and over again. It just kind of becomes part of the lexicon, right? When you start quoting things.
So if it's a classic holiday movie, what is it going to have in it?
Snow, usually. It's gonna have this ending that, you know, we finally discover why Christmas is so important, and we rediscover the importance of family or relationships or love or something along those lines. I mean, is that kind of what you're looking for?
Well, I think that you're going to definitely have a happy ending.
Yeah.
And I think
trying to think of a Christmas tragedy. How would that work?
How would you do it? You could do it. I don't know whether it would be a hit or not, but you totally could do it.
Oh, sure. The fucking shoes. Didn't they make a movie about that?
Is it the red shoe?
No, the Mama's shoes, where the kid goes out because Mama's dying and buys her the goddamn shoes. I mean, it's a horrible song.
Yes.
And they made a movie out of it, didn't they?
They did, because Kelly Williams from Father of the Bride is the mother.
Okay.
And I didn't see it. Why the frick would I see it?
Well, it's a Christmas movie, and she dies at the end. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
You know, I'm not going to see it because it's going to make me
I'm just saying it's possible. You asked if it were possible, and I'm saying yes.
You know what? It's not on my Hallmark list at all, and I think that's why. She dies.
Well, you made the list. So there's that.
Well,
but anyway.
I went on their TV schedule.
Okay. I'm just saying it's happened.
It's called The Red Shoes or something like that.
No, The Red Shoes is the whole thing with they talk about it in Chorus Line. That's an old movie with these red magic shoes. It's a ballet thing.
I remember that. Where
it's
they couldn't take them. Oh, okay.
The Christmas shoe. I think it's just called The Christmas Shoes. I wish people could see your face right now.
Oh my God!
Because it does tell a story. Tells a story. It's not a happy story. It's a story.
It's not a happy story. But I will tell you what it does have.
Okay.
It doesn't have the happy ending, but it does have the heartstring pull.
Yes.
Which I also think is key, even in Die Hard.
Okay.
Even in Die Hard, his love for his wife.
Yes.
I mean that's I'm reaching for that.
You're reaching a little bit because before we get there, you get to yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, which is always a good. It's my favorite line from any Christmas movie ever.
He is saving his wife from the very beginning.
From the very beginning. You're right.
So there is that, but
Alan Rickman's is so deliciously evil. It's just so much fun. It's fun. It
is fun, and it's wonderful. And if you're going to see an Alan Rickman holiday movie, we suggest that one. We'll talk about another one later on. Okay, so what we're talking about today, there's some categories, and I guess we'll talk about the different categories of holiday movies, and we'll give an example of each one that we're thinking of this year, because there's several we have lots of movies that we could put in there.
Tons,
but we're just going to pull out one from each category and yip about it.
You're listening to Popperation with Eric and Stacey. Take a deep breath. This may sting a little.
This is Popperation. I'm Stacey.
I'm Eric, and it's the holidays.
Ding, 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 ding. So we're talking about the categories. I don't know what I was trying to do. Silver bells.
I guess.
Did it sound like it?
It sounded a little bit like a
I'm no
heart
Bobby
monitor.
McFerrin.
Oh dear.
I don't know where to go.
So
with that.
so we're gonna start our kind of laundry list of holiday films with a real classic.
Yeah, this is literally, everybody's going to say this is a classic Christmas. And there are some people, one of my daughters is one of these that has to watch it every year. I myself do not.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be a yearly thing for me. And we're speaking, of course, of It's a Depressing Life.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, sorry.
Now, here's the thing. I don't think it was meant to be a big Christmas movie. I believe that it was just meant to be a movie. It wasn't necessarily a hit when it came out.
No.
It was later on that it became this classic.
But the ending, Zazu's whole thing about every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings, and it's a bell that's on a Christmas tree.
No, I know why it's a Christmas classic. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. My point is that if you watch it in July, you come up with all these questions about it.
I think I come up with most of those questions watching it in December, but go ahead.
It was on big screen last year. So I took my family to see it on the big screen.
Oh, nice.
And that's where a lot of these questions came up.
Okay. I actually went to a playwriting workshop, and they always showed us the very first scene of It's a Wonderful Life as an example of what you need to do. And that is kind of setting up the rules of your story. Because the first 45 minutes of It's a Wonderful Life has nothing about angels or the supernatural at all. But if you recall, the very first scene is God talking to an angel, and it's just these two stars that get brighter when they're being voiced.
No CGI whatsoever.
So it's kind of funny. It's very quaint. But the guy who led the workshop, his whole point was, now we can bring in an angel whenever we want to, because in the first 10 seconds, we've established that God is watching and he talks to angels and angels can intervene. And then we can go look at George Bailey's life, for 45 minutes, and his whole existence in this, cute little town, and his marriage to Mary and the courtship and the whole thing. Yep. And when he hits rock bottom and tries to commit suicide and along comes an angel named Clarence, it makes sense and you're totally okay with it. It's what I really appreciate about this movie, because a lot of things I've seen that are like that, and it always annoys me when people break their own rules. And I always go back to that 10-minute rule. In the first 10 minutes, you can do anything, and an audience is with you. But then after that, you've kind of set, here are the rules that we're living under. And if they hadn't had that first initial little scene, the angel would have made no sense. Anyway, we were talking about the plot. The whole plot is this angel...
Yes.
comes to George and says, oh, you want to kill yourself, do you? Well, let me show you what life would have been like had you not been around.
Right. We've all said it. We've gotten to a point where, maybe it would be better if I just weren't born, in some dramatic moment. And that's basically the question that George, Jimmy Stewart's character, asks. He's like, I shouldn't have been born. Clarence is an angel who's trying to get his wings. So he sees this as an opportunity. Maybe if I help turn this guy's life around, then I'll get my wings.
Yep.
So, there's a win-win. And so that's basically, as you said, the first part is showing, is God's assistant, I think, showing Clarence who George is and why he is where he is, which is on a bridge thinking about committing suicide. And then the last part is Clarence showing George what life would have been, an alternate universe. And this is another plot device that has been used in a lot of holiday movies. The what if you weren't around, what would have happened to the people around you? But It's a Wonderful Life does a very good job of it. And obviously everybody in George's life would have had a much worse life if he hadn't been around.
Yes.
Even though he feels like he's a failure, he touched people's, and that's again the bottom line of this movie, I think, is that we touch people even then we don't know that we have. And we have changed their lives, hopefully in a positive way. And so at the end, and of course we have a villain. Speaking of black and white, we have a good and bad kind of thing. We have a villain in the form of Mr. Potter, who basically wants to turn everything into, it looks like a dystopian version
capitalist
of life.
nightmare. And in fact, when George wakes up in the world that existed without his presence, the town is called Potterville.
Correct.
So he's taken over. He's a capitalist nightmare.
It's no longer Bedford Falls.
Yeah,
so,
he puts his name on lots of buildings, like someone else you might think of.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
None whatsoever. Okay. Anyway, Lionel Barrymore plays Mr. Potter.
Of course he did. Who else are you going to get back then?
That's true. But I mean, this kind of, it reminds me of our recent show about, Titanic. We were talking about actors really have to kind of fill in some blanks. Lionel Barrymore, you can look at him and go, he wasn't hugged enough as a child. He plays it with some amount of depth where you can actually kind of, it's written to be very cartoon villain, and yet
there are moments in there that Lionel pulls to where it makes him a little bit more human. Now, so he is wonderful in that role, I think. And I do have a problem, though, because he seems to be very much one-dimensional. There were times when he could have been softened, and Frank Capra, who was the director, chose not to.
Exactly.
So,
and we'll never know if Lionel filmed those scenes and Capra just said, no, we're going to use this one because I like the way it tells the story better. Actors don't have a lot of control.
Correct. So it is what he is. He did a very good job in what we see him. So it ends up that in the end, George, having seen what life was like without him, says, no, I do want to live, even though, we've lost some money. And that was part of the problem is he thought he was bankrupt and he was going to go to jail, yada, yada, yada. The whole town, in the meantime, has taken up all this money to make up for the money that was, for all intents and purposes, stolen. And, so at the end, everybody's in his house. They have all this money for the debt that was there. His daughter is there. He's back with his family. Suddenly a bell rings, which this, as you said, had been set up, that every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. The bell rings on the tree, and
of its own accord.
Zuzu, of its own accord. And
the special effects are amazing.
Zuzu says, stop it. There's some guy on the floor underneath the camera shaking the tree. And Zuzu says, every time a bell rings, an angel gets its ring. And
says it with just that much charisma.
I can't stand her. But it's you know what? My least favorite child character / actor. It's between Zuzu and It's a Wonderful Life and Bonnie Blue Butler in Gone with the Wind. I find them both equally annoying, on my last nerve, and I would prefer every scene with them in it cut. Done. All right, end of rant.
I'm going to say Bonnie Blue is probably higher on your list only because you love Gone with the Wind a whole lot more than you love.
I did love it. Remember, I talked about that.
Well,
but yes. Well, and I will say this. the chick who played Bonnie Boo what's her face? See, I can't even do it. Chick who played her, and granted, here this is easy safe for me to say because they're probably both dead. These are old movies. The chick who played BBB, much worse than Zuzu.
Yeah.
Zuzu is a better actress, even though that's a low-ass bar. Okay, so It's a Wonderful Life, classic. I think it hits, everybody knows somebody in that show.
Yep.
Oh, a fun fact.
Yes.
It's the policeman and the taxi cab driver, Bert and Ernie.
Yes.
They are who the Bert and Ernie
Jim
are named
Henson
after.
named those characters after those two guys. Who knew they were a gay couple? Jim Henson had a clue, apparently.
But there was anyway, so that is a classic. There are a lot of things that can't come out of It's a Wonderful Life. That plot has been used as far as we said, taking people back and helping. And again, it comes back. Your ending is everybody feels good about where we are.
You had to get through some dark shit to get there, though. That's the thing about this movie.
So I watched it on the big screen, and me and my mom was in town, so we were there. And we talked about it, and we both kind of went, there's a lot of stuff still open on this. Yes, they got the money to make up for that which was lost, but Mr. Potter still is threatening to do a whole. I mean, they haven't. Yeah. They didn't. It was not tied up in a knot. It was a very much. The ending of the movie is a temporary fix. And if you really think about it, the next day is going to be some kind of it's just, they have a long road. Bedford Falls has a long road.
They do. But, the point of the movie was life is worth living, and not that life is going to always work out. But despite the title, It's a Wonderful Life, he got him literally off the ledge. Right.
Correct.
That's what it's about. And so life is worth living. All the things that he's done in his life up till now, he can see that, people would have been much worse off had he not been around. And there are challenges that we will still need to face, and we will face them. And so,
also with going back to his old life, he has his kids.
Yes,
he realized he missed his kids because his kids didn't exist before. So that's our classic, and it is a classic, and it makes sense that it's a classic. I can't watch it. I don't need to watch it. It's not the kind of classic that makes me want to watch it every year.
So other movies that would be in this category that we're not going to talk about would be like Miracle on 34th Street.
Yes.
Is also there. What else? A
Christmas Carol.
Yeah. Sure.
Any one of the classic, A Christmas Carol, White Christmas.
Sure.
There's a lot of those old classics that would go in this.
Yeah.
That again, as you said, we're not talking about this time. We just pulled out that one, but there's similarities. There's a reason they're in the same category.
Yep.
So next is also what will come out at this time of year, a family fare. People want stuff to take their kids to.
Yep.
And an easy one that hits kids on a level because they are kids and they can relate to that. But then also it hits adults because they can remember the same point of view is movies from a kid's point of view.
Yeah.
Ones that would fit into this are like A Christmas Story.
Which I love.
Also, this one, which we're going to talk about a little bit, is Polar Express.
Now, you're going to take the lead for most of this because I have not seen this movie since it came out.
Okay. Do you remember what your feeling was at the end of it? Did you like it? Did you not?
I liked it. It was I mean, it sounds so silly to say because it was what it was. It was about a train. It's a ride. I mean, it is, you kind of go on this journey.
It is a road trip.
Yeah.
It's a rail trip. Well, here's the thing. So when it came out, it's from a book. It's from a children's Christmas book.
Yep.
So there's that literary connection, which is nice to have that. But so another part of it was that Tom Hanks did a lot of the voices.
Yes.
And that was a big deal because he did a lot of the voices. Then also the animation was connected to his face. So a lot of the characters, including the boy.
Yep.
The boy, the conductor, and then almost every other adult character after that is Tom Hanks.
Now, did he perform this like kind of the Gollum Lord of the Rings thing where they had points all over his face?
I believe he did.
Okay, so he actually acted it. He didn't just sit in a studio with a microphone in front of him and voice
let me say this. And this is, my researchers. No, it was either that or it was that he was filmed doing it, and then there was something weird about the animation, and sorry, sorry people that Stacey didn't get on this research, but there was something different about the animation and the style, and so it's very much, but there was also the voice work technology, because they made the kid sound like a kid,
but it was Tom
Hanks's performance, and they did that with varying degrees to the different characters that he played. But I think that there was an animation technology that was used.
Yeah, well, the conductor looked just like him with a big mustache. So
Correct.
It was just kind of that really is Tom Hanks.
Yeah, so does the hobo on top of the thing. They all have a resemblance, except the kid.
Yeah.
The kid doesn't look like him, in my opinion. So it's about this kid who doesn't really he's starting to not believe in Santa Claus anymore. And what happens that night is a train pulls up, stops in front of his house. Magically,
because he doesn't live by the train tracks.
And he they're like, we're going to the North Pole. You're coming, and he's like, what? So he gets on.
As
he has a ticket. He has a ticket, and he gets on. And so that's when we meet the conductor for the first time. So basically, it's a road trip, and there's several other kids that are on the train itself. One friend is this little African-American girl, and they become best buds.
Yep.
And then there's this other annoying kid who has a really annoying voice, and I know it was an adult, and they didn't do, in my opinion, they didn't do a really great job. They didn't do anything technologically to his voice, and so it was an adult guy trying to sound like a kid. And
Eddie Deason, who played the know-it-all.
Yeah, I couldn't stand that particular voice. And then there's this poor kid who ends up getting on, and there's some drama with the ticket. It's a semi-musical number with all of the waiters giving out hot chocolate and whatnot. And Tom Hanks kind of Rex Harrisoning it through the song. He doesn't really sing so much as talking.
But he's Tom Hanks, and we love him.
It is Tom Hanks, so we don't care. So it's this ride all the way to the North Pole, and then there's drama about some of the gifts at the North Pole getting into the right place and meeting Santa. And it's very much, kids who watch it, I think, enjoy it. And I think, if you have a history with the book, I think you really enjoy it. I didn't have any history, and I'll be honest with you, I did not see it when it first came out. It was later on.
Okay.
And the reason was, only one reason, that I didn't go see it. The song by Josh Groban.
Oh.
And you say, but it's a nice song. It is a nice song, Eric. I know you didn't say that, but I'm still going to put...
Eric's
just sitting here, and I'm going to have a conversation with myself. But it's a nice song, Stacey. It is a nice song. And I like Josh Groban. I like him too, Eric. But the song...
What am I doing here?
I don't know why. You're just taking up space. My problem with it is if you don't see the movie, if you don't have anything, you don't know the story, but you hear the song sounds sad.
Oh.
It's a very... sad. It is not a Christmas happy song thing. It sounds sad. It's beautiful, but it's sad.
Okay, have you listened to our holiday music playlist that we put out for these listeners 2 weeks ago? It's not like we're all about the happy music ourselves.
But I'm not trying to get somebody to come into my movie theater.
Okay, fair.
Okay?
Valid.
So, now, having seen it, once I did see the movie, the song is fine. It's fine. Okay. But I just feel like it could have been a lot
of these movies that kind of are the kids' point of view around Christmas, it is that kind of that growing up and do I believe anymore? That is kind of a common theme throughout. And the idea that you can, they always kind of come to this place where you can get older and still retain some of the magic. Is kind of a thing that we experience a lot. And I think that adults will resonate with that in a slightly different way, in that adulting can be a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And so there's something about the Christmas season where we long for simpler emotions and a somewhat less complex life where pipes don't burst and your car doesn't break down and, bills don't have to be paid and, you don't have to worry about getting a life insurance policy. It's just all about, Santa's coming and flying reindeer in a train that stops by your house and takes you to the North Pole.
And that's exactly what the Polar Express is about. Magic. Yeah. It is about the magic of Christmas and finding it again.
Yeah.
And so you're right. There isn't necessarily a need for an absurd, silly song to go with it, but it is one of those, when I saw the previews or the trailers, whatever, that was the song and it was lovely, but that was the song and I'm like, oh my gosh, no, there's not going to be a dog is going to die or something stupid.
Oh, a dog's not going to die. It's the Polar Express. You thought a dog was going to die?
I didn't know it was going to be a dog specifically. Okay. I'm telling you, something sad was going to happen because of the music. And nothing like that happens, just so you know. So watch it. But still,
well, and you didn't know. I mean, the Christmas shoes exist, Stacey.
And is Stacey watching it? She sure is not. And you know what? When that song comes on, I don't listen to it.
I don't either. Who?
Because here's the thing: as an adult, and I'm moving right into the next category. Is I like this? This might be my favorite kind of Christmas movie.
Okay.
And it is the absurd, silly, with a bit of a heartstring pull in it.
Yeah.
I like...
So Scrooged.
Scrooged, I think, would go into that.
That definitely falls into that for me.
Yes, I think so. Oh, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that, there's several. But the one that I was thinking of for just this one is Elf.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
It's absolutely. I think it hits on all points of it's a happy ending.
Yep.
Spoiler, but there's
also finding the magic.
It's about finding the magic. Do we still
believe? Yep.
And it's about a heartstring pull. It's also, like you were talking about, family. What is important?
Yes.
Family is important. So you figure out your priorities and you get that together. And then there's just the comedy. Will Ferrell, and again, he has made a career out of playing childlike people.
Yes.
Now, having said that, I will say that when I see him an adult, where he's playing an adult, he's very good.
Yes.
I really like him.
He can be.
But he's very personable, and he's very believable as this childlike person. Now,
it's funnier because he's also, 6'3"?
He is. I think he's taller than that.
Okay.
I think he's more like 6'5" or something. Because Lithgow is tall, too, and they're in that Daddy's Home 2 thing, and they're about the same size. So I think he's quite tall.
Okay.
Having said that, it's good that he's that tall because he plays this baby that is an orphan and accidentally crawls into Santa's sack when Santa was at the orphanage. Yep. And so Santa unknowingly, and Santa, who was Santa played by? Remember?
Oh, Lou Grant.
Yes. Ed Asner.
Yeah.
Who's, I think, just delightful.
Yeah.
He's just he's a laid-back, chill kind of Santa, and it's kind of fun. So anyway, Santa takes him up to the North Pole, and they're like, okay, we've got the baby, now what do we do?
Yep.
And so an elf, and of course this might be my favorite elf ever, says he's going to adopt him and raise him as his own, and it's Bob Newhart. Which makes, again, the casting, here's my thing. The casting may be maybe the most brilliant part of this movie, because in every single role, a different person certainly would have colored it differently, but it might not have been as charming or what it was. Jon Favreau, who is known for directing now, he's known for directing
Iron Man
and, big action flicks, but he was still getting his name out there at this point. And so Elf, Will Ferrell's character is Buddy is raised as an elf, even though he's 4 times the size of any other elf that's up there, and trying to find what he's good at doing, and really never can until finally, and you get to see all these, again, hijinks ensue in the North Pole, and then he finds out that he was adopted. Again, this is silliness, but you're right. It was in the very beginning. You're given, here are the rules.
Yeah.
Which was basically there are none, but here are the rules. And once you believe that, everything fits, and you're fine with the fact that he comes down from the North Pole to New York, gets a job in a department store.
Yep, as an elf.
And because he's looking for his real dad, his biological dad, who is James Caan.
Of course.
Which is, again, it's one of those, at first I was like, that's a weird casting, and I'm not sure I would have done that, but I think it was great.
Yeah,
because he's just the opposite of what Will Ferrell is.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, it's all of this is Will trying to forge a relationship with his biological father, who didn't know he existed, didn't know that Buddy existed, and, you know, having to deal with all of that. And then there's more drama in that people are not believing in Santa enough for Santa's sleigh to run. Santa's sleigh runs on the power of people believing in him.
Okay.
So when fewer and fewer people believe in him, there's not enough energy for his sleigh to run. Why am I getting this weird look from you?
It makes such perfect sense. But you're right. I mean,
again, you have to. This is under the absurd, silly holiday story.
And they do set it up from the very beginning. They set it up at the beginning. Yep, they do. They do. But it is just kind of
when you're saying it out loud.
When you're saying it out loud, it sounds so silly, but
awful.
It is. But it's an absurd kind of thing. But
and it doesn't necessarily sound like it would work.
But it works.
But it does work. Yeah. I enjoy this movie because it makes me smile despite myself.
Yeah. Well, and to me what I love about it is that, you know, Buddy has his point of view, which is that he knows things that other people in this movie don't know. When he gets to New York, he knows that Santa is real. He knows that the workshop is real.
That's true.
He knows things. And, you know, so when he gets the job, is it Gimbals?
Yeah.
Which it's so funny because Gimbals doesn't really exist anymore, but that's the way they use it.
Well, they refer to other holiday movies. That's like a nod to 34th, Miracle on 34th. But they also, when he leaves the North Pole, isn't there narwhal, or isn't there like some of those misfit toy or something in the pond that say, bye, buddy, when he's leaving?
Okay.
And it's from one of those animation
Rankin
things.
Bass.
Yeah, one of those Rankin Bass things.
Okay. You know, and he's there and he's singing because that's what you're supposed to do to engender holiday spirit, is you're supposed to sing loud. And so he's singing and the manager comes and goes, there's no singing at the North Pole. He goes, oh, but there is. We sing all the time. And you can see the manager go, who the hell is this lunatic that I hired? And the comedy just comes from the fact that people are on completely two different wavelengths. They're having a conversation, but they're not having the same conversation. And it's just so funny to watch. And when, you know, okay, Santa's going to be here tomorrow, and he just flips out. Yes. He is. I know him. And everyone's like, who is that? You know, they just charming, very funny.
And again, I will say that not everybody can pull this off.
Yes.
The complete innocence. Will Ferrell is perfect. You completely believe that he is. There is no tongue in cheek. There is no wink at the camera.
No.
And in order for this to have worked, the character of Buddy needed to be completely sincere, and Will Ferrell knocks it out.
I mean, Laurence Olivier would be pleased with the amount of commitment to this character that Will Ferrell displays. And that's not even me being snarky.
No, not at all.
Will Ferrell is a great actor, but that's where we get back to, you know, one of our common themes that we come back to all the time is that comic actors don't get the amount of respect that they deserve, because you have to commit to these characters and these moments and these being idiotic, because in a modern context, Buddy is idiotic. Yes. In his context, all of his behaviors make total sense.
They make sense because he doesn't know. He is naive, but he's not stupid.
No.
And that's the thing.
And he knows what he knows, and he knows things that everyone else doesn't know.
Correct. And I think that he doesn't look, you know, we've talked about this too. He doesn't look like he's working really hard. And so you feel like, Will Ferrell can do that. No, he's working really. It's hard to maintain that naivete when you aren't.
Now, I will admit that when I was watching the movie for the first time, I did kind of have these, okay, but he's not an elf. He is a human. And when his whole romance with Zooey Deschanel, which is charming.
You just called her Zooey.
Zoe. Well,
it's Zoe.
Well, it's spelled Zooey.
Well, yes, because the Deschanel girls are odd. But yeah, it's Zoe.
I don't know what it is. Anyway, Z. Deschanel. And I don't even know if I'm pronouncing her last name correctly.
Just call her New Girl because that was the name of her TV show.
Okay, let's do that. That whole romance, as I was watching the first one, I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, but you're a human man. You're not actually an elf. That's the one thing you don't you might know, you're adopted, but like, aren't there any adult feelings for this woman? Have you seen an adult female woman before?
No.
That was beautiful? Why aren't there some? But he's so like in elf mode the entire time. And I realize it's an absurd, silly movie, and I'm probably overanalyzing it a little bit too much. But I wondered if there was perhaps some comedy that could be mined for his strange new feelings that he's kind of experienced. And yet it was very childlike. I mean, when he sneaks into the shower to sing along with her as she's singing Baby It's Cold Outside in the shower, and suddenly she realized there's a man in the bathroom who's singing a duet with her, she is rightly freaked out, which, in this hashtag Me Too moment we're in right now, I admit I thought about that a little bit more. But for him, it's just, he's so innocent. He's so wide-eyed, and it's okay. It's okay.
I think in order for this to be, you can't go down too many even comic rabbit holes with that. And I think that would have taken this to a different, like more of an American Pie kind of movie. They wanted this to be a family movie.
That's true. That's true.
If you were 7... and you're a 7-year-old boy going to see Elf, it's funny because of all the stupid stuff he does.
Yes.
But you would not understand anything if he started talking about puberty stuff. You see what I'm saying? And I think that they made a decision.
Yeah. And in my mind, because I was an adult when this movie came out, so in my mind, I was like, but you've been through puberty. What was that like for you? And I think about things sometimes way too much.
And that's not, this is not a documentary.
Thanks for that.
Well, I just feel like sometimes I need to remind you because you get worried. Eric worries.
Anyway, charming, funny. The physical comedy is something to behold. And there's
a lot of fun things in this, and I
trip around the revolving door, I think, is just so funny.
Okay. You know what? I feel like maybe I should be ashamed of this particular thing I'm going to admit to, but
you've already admitted that you've watched all these Barbie movies, so go ahead.
Some of them are good.
I have no words. Go ahead, say this other thing, because now it's just going to be perfectly fine, whatever you say after that.
I'm going to stand by that. I will asterisk it in context.
Okay.
Some of them are good. But here's what I'm going to say. Right. If it's done well, I always enjoy a revolving door bit.
Yeah, that's not embarrassing. That's totally fine.
I enjoy that, and I like it, especially when it's somebody's first time to ever deal with it. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy his bit with the revolving door.
It's very funny. I mean, it just,
it sounds stupid though, but
but it's such a great, New York City is also the best kind of fish out of water. Of course he goes to New York City. He could have gone anywhere. I mean, they could have written this movie where he ends up in some little small town, and that could have been charming as well. But if
you'd gone to L.A., you wouldn't have gotten the snow, and you want to have the snow because why? Yep. It's a holiday movie.
Yep.
Santa's got to take his sleigh somewhere.
Mm-hmm. But he could have gone to small town Iowa. That could have been,
and that would have been a whole different set,
whole different thing.
But I think they did
more heartstrings, less comedy, because New York is that fish out of water place.
Correct. Also, he came from a small town.
Yeah.
So that would just be another small town. And I think that you want to put him in a big city.
Yeah.
I think that was the right choice.
Yeah.
So anyway, but at the end of the day, Christmas is saved and people believe more.
Yep.
And his family, now he has 2 families, spoiler, he gets married to Zooey.
Is it Zoe? It's spelled Zooey. I always thought it was Zooey. I mean, I knew she's odd, but I thought, well, of course she's odd. She's named Zooey.
Okay. Anyway, and it's adorable, but it's family friendly, and it goes in that of I really like it. And it's the absurd silly category.
I just have to say a couple of just notes about the cast too. People we didn't mention who I just adore: Amy Sedaris and Peter Dinklage.
Oh, Peter Dinklage.
So funny.
That is a fabulous little subplot that Buddy's dad, James Caan, is dealing with. And Peter Dinklage, yes, I would have taken that part. That's hysterical.
Yes.
I like almost everything Peter Dinklage does.
Yes.
Just throw that out. He's awesome. Speaking of family friendly, which the next category is your animation on TV and movies. Now, every year there's some new TV show, new holiday thing that comes out, and that's all well and good. But I think that a classic one, and I'll be honest, some other Christmas I will talk about it because I have some favorites of new ones that have come out that I really, really, really like. But this is a classic. Everybody knows it. Everybody looks forward to it, and it's Charlie Brown Christmas.
Yeah.
Now,
that little tree that nobody liked. So sad.
The girls and I go to this little craft. It's a Christmas craft thing that we've done since they were little bitty.
Yep.
And they would have, and it's a place, and you could go to this different places and do different crafts in different rooms, kind of thing. This event, and for a long time they would have one that was called Charlie Brown's Christmas Tree. Basically, you would go in there and you would decorate a pot, and then they would have all these little stick trees that they're real trees, but they look like that stick tree.
Pathetic sticks.
And you would plant it, and that was your craft. And you could take it home and you could replant it outside, whatever. But that's when you hear the words Charlie Brown Christmas Tree, everyone pictures it in their mind. Yeah. They know exactly what you're talking about.
Pathetic little stick that nobody wanted.
That's right. And you feel for that tree.
Yeah.
Because Charlie Brown fell for that tree.
And the tree is Charlie Brown. I mean, he's this, misfit kind of, loser kid who, is in for a world of cyberbullying once he gets into high school. But anybody who was not the most popular kid in school, if you were not the homecoming king or queen, part of you relates to Charlie Brown.
And you wanted that tree.
Yeah.
And I think you talk about kids relating to something or people relating to the characters.
Yep.
I think that, Lucy, Linus, Schroeder, Charlie Brown, Sally, Pigpen. I think that, and part of it is because we grew up with them.
Yeah.
So we feel like they're part of our family. And that's nice to come home. I think that's one reason we also go to some of these holiday movies and we see them over and over again. We go to that same place, as you said, the nostalgia. We go there. We're able to emotionally go there every single time. And I think
I will watch Charlie Brown Christmas every single year. First of all, it's only 25 minutes long.
There is that.
So it's an easy thing to squeeze into your December. And it does take you right back to a moment. There is, as I was looking at it again, though, one thing that really struck me about this is that there's a huge religious element to this particular special that I don't know that you could do today.
I don't think
they would do it today. I think it does kind of, if you are a young Muslim or Jewish child watching a Charlie Brown Christmas, there's kind of this long extended period where it's like, oh, this isn't for me.
Right. They're reading out of the New Testament of the Bible. They're literally, Linus is literally doing that. And, and I get what Schroeder, the writer was trying to do. It's that peace on good earth kind of.
Yeah, let's look at what is the real meaning of Christmas. And so it's an anti-commercialism
Correct.
message,
that's what he was trying to do.
Which I totally get. Yes. But he said, instead of commercialism, let's look to the real meaning of Christmas, which in the, when was this made? 50s? 60s?
Yeah, 60s.
That was, we were, 92% Christian nation. And so, of course, and Christmas is a major holiday in the Christian calendar,
right?
Birth of Christ, et cetera, et cetera. And so that made total sense. Now I think they would probably just say something about
he would do a
peace
lovely
on
little,
earth and goodwill towards men and the power of friendship and, love conquers all.
He would have a lovely little speech, but it would not be based, it would not be a quote.
From the Gospel of Luke.
From the Gospel of Luke. So, but again, yes, and I did notice that too as an adult watching that. It kind of goes, oh, wow, he's actually,
Yeah, they really go there in a way that most popular entertainment does not.
Correct.
Today.
So, that's a little dated. So if you can overlook that, but there is something very comfortable, very familiar. And you know how it's going to end.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I am as secular as an adult in the United States gets, and even I get a little wistful hearing Linus recite from the Gospel of Luke. It works.
Dude,
I mean,
I'm with you on that. But again, here's this wasp. I grew up with it. Where I am now may or may not be right there, but there is a nostalgia about it.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, that is the case.
And knowing that those people who made it, their heart was absolutely in the right place. You know, I think that if that were made by somebody today, somebody would probably say, you're excluding people, and those people would say, we don't care.
Well, there's an agenda. There was not an agenda here, except I think you're exactly right. It was we want the opposite of commercialism.
Yep.
Because that's what this tree, that's what Charlie Brown, that's what Charles Schultz is. And so I think that there was not a hidden agenda.
Yeah.
It was just, we want this to be the opposite of that.
So it's a lovely message.
It's a lovely message. And if you can go to the idea that it just happens to be from, this particular document.
Which I do.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I might be in another context. If this were something that we made today, I might be one of the first people not to get furious about it. I wouldn't hate tweet about it. But I would probably go, why? You know?
Correct.
But given that it is what it is, and it has been what it is for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And I just feel for Charlie and that poor little tree.
It's that tree, man.
You know?
It's that tree will get you every time. So those are the fun ones. Those are the ones that make us feel good and make us feel warm all over. There's one that we've promised to talk about.
Yeah.
And we've been putting it off. It's that time. It's that time, and we're going to have to face the music.
Okay. Let's do it.
Open wide, it's your prescribed dose of Pop-Oration with Eric and Stacey.
It's Pop-Oration. I'm Eric.
I'm Stacey. Okay, the reason Eric sounds like that, there's a little bit of a lack of enthusiasm. Because we're...
I don't know if I would call it a lack of enthusiasm, because when I get going about this particular movie, the rants start coming out with fervor.
Okay, first we need to put out there a disclaimer. We are both aware that there are people, friends of ours, who love this movie.
Love it.
They watch it.
They actually love it. See what I did?
I see what you did. They watch it every Christmas because all those things we talked about that people want in their Christmas movies, this has for them. But that's for them. Hush. That's our disclaimer, okay?
Yep.
Now we're going to get into
why they're all wrong.
The movie is entitled Love, actually. But we would like to name this segment Loathe.
Actually.
So I watched it again, Eric.
God, it's awful. Why? Why do people... Why? Tell me why.
Here's what... First I want to say this. I'm wondering... Okay, there are those people that watch it every year, so that clearly they've watched it every year. But here, if you haven't seen it since it came out, and you loved it when it came out, and now you watched it, do you still love it? I don't know whether people would or not, because I watched when it first came out. I saw it and I hated it.
Me too.
And when I now watch it again, I hate it even more and don't understand why anybody loved it. But I'm also like, but if you did love it, could you still love it now because it's still bad? And you say, but Stacey, we love it so much. We love it so much. Okay, we're going to tell you why you shouldn't. Where do we start, though? Where do we start?
Okay, I'm going to start with the misogyny, which just goes through the whole fucking thing.
It was written by Richard Curtis, who also did, like, Blackadder, and he's done a lot of British stuff.
Okay.
And, yes, I do want to agree with you. OMG, it was written by a man. And he also directed it. It's a man-made.
It's a ostensibly Christmas movie. It takes place during the holiday season.
That's all
but
I'm
it's
going
a
to say.
Series of romances that really have nothing to do with Christmas per se. And it's a movie clearly written for women by a man. And I'm something of a feminist myself. I look at life through that particular lens. I do work in my day job that helps women and people of color be more successful in their workplaces specifically. So I come to it with a particular kind of setup.
I'm a girl.
So you live it.
So I live it. And let me just say,
not all women are feminists, so we'll just say that too. But we both are.
No, they're not, but they should be, but they're not.
Well, yes.
But here's misogyny. That just seems like a nice word for it. It was insulting.
It hates women.
Almost every single story is so mean. I saw Emma Thompson say words, and I'm like, oh my God, Emma. I hope the paycheck was good enough.
Yeah, okay, so Emma Thompson and Laura Linney are the only two women in this movie with personalities.
You are correct.
And they have the shittiest endings. Like, so that's what he said, so that it has the heartstring happy ending. Does it? Emma Thompson realizes she's married to a cad who is fucking his secretary. That's her ending.
There are like 12
Laura
stories.
Linney has a crush on this guy at her office, and when they're about to hook up, she gets a call from her mentally challenged brother and needs to go take care of him, and therefore the romance is over.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
Like, if she's cool and you're into her and she has a medical emergency in her family, you say, oh my gosh, can I drive you to the hospital? Or if not, can I see you next week? Why is the romance over because she received an emergency call from a hospital where her brother is staying? Those are their endings. Where's the happy ending in that? Merry fucking Christmas.
So it's basically a whole slew of vignettes. It's like, I don't know, 8 stories. If there's 8 stories, there's 6 too many.
Yes.
Because it is too, and that's part of its problem, is that you can't get to know any set of couples for more than 3 minutes at a pop.
Yeah, which is why those two women are the only ones with personalities. Probably no mistake. I don't have the entire cast list in front of me, but they are probably the most gifted actresses in the entire thing. And so they can give their characters some amount of...
there's a lot of good actresses. I don't know if it's a pretty... Okay, here's the thing
the cast is great.
I was going to say,
the cast is great.
The pros are that it's a really amazing cast, which is why everybody went to go see it in the first place, because, holy crap, everybody's in it.
But I will stand by my assertion that Emma Thompson and Laura Linney
are probably the most heavy
they're
actresses
amazing.
in there. Okay, why don't you list who's in this? This is a who's who.
Okay, so Bill Nye is in this movie. Colin Firth, Liam Neeson, Emma Thompson, Martin Freeman, The Hobbit, right?
Yep.
Joanna Page, Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Yep.
Said that really well.
By the way.
Andrew Lincoln of The Walking Dead, Keira Knightley, Hugh Grant, Martine McCutcheon, Laura Linney, Thomas Brody, who is sometimes Jojen from Game of Thrones. That's nothing you would care about. Alan Rickman,
Rowan Atkinson.
Billy Bob Thornton is in this movie.
Yep. It's like a stupid, amazing cast.
Freaking amazing cast.
And then
such a waste of their time and mine.
It is every single story. Again, the misogyny is rampant. And watching it, I watched it
and it's not just because Emma and Laura get sad endings. Okay, here's the scene for me. I'll go for my big one, then you go for the scene for me that kills me in terms of the misogyny is Andrew Lincoln plays this fucking psycho stalker who is Chiwetel Ejiofor's best friend, who videotapes their wedding. So Chiwetel Ejiofor and Keira Knightley are getting married. Andrew Lincoln is obsessed with Keira Knightley. He videotapes their wedding and the entire thing, but he's the groom's best man. And he videotapes the entire wedding, and it's nothing but close-ups of Kira's face. Cue the horror movie Psycho music, okay? This guy is a psycho. Later on, she sees this and realizes, oh my God, he's got a thing for me. And instead of being freaked out like any normal woman would be, she kind of thinks it's charming. Later, he shows up at her front door. Her husband is in the next room. He's got a series of placards that he is kind of silently giving the husband's best friend is basically written this love note on these huge placards that he is showing her about how he dreams about her. He doesn't know her. They've never really, his husband's best friend, they've never really had a conversation, so that's weird already. We'll just leave that aside for a moment. He basically tells her that he's obsessed with her and then walks away, and she runs out into the freezing cold night and tongue kisses him in the middle of the street.
I don't know if she tongue kissed him, but she kissed him on the mouth, and it was so creepy.
It was, what the hell movie is this? What is wrong with the people who dreamt this up? How is this okay?
Okay, so, yes, that's awful. That is awful, and it's unbelievable. And this is my problem. I feel like Richard Curtis doesn't know how women think.
No.
So, but here's one that got me.
Okay.
So you also have these porn stand-ins.
Oh God, yes.
Okay.
Martin Freeman
and the
Joanna
chick.
Page.
Yeah, and yes. Basically, they're.
Are they porn stand-ins, or they're making a movie and it's the love scene, and so they're the
sure.
body doubles for
Maybe
the actors who didn't want to get naked.
I don't know.
But they're spending all of their time simulating sex.
They have to do. That's exactly what they're doing, is simulating sex. Now, in the first time they meet, and the first scene is they're both clothed. She is leaning against a pole. Martin Freeman's behind her, simulating humping.
Yep.
Okay, that kind of thing. So then the lighting guy says, "Oh, can you take off your shirt? Because we want to get lighting on the breasts area." So Martin's still completely clothed. She takes off her shirt, leans back over, sex simulated again. The lighting guy comes up, puts the light right there near her breast. Okay, then he walks away. I'm not done yet with the scene. I'm sitting there going, what the hell? They're just it's supposed to be funny because they're just sitting there talking about the traffic.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're having a nice, normal conversation.
That's it's supposed to be, a juxtaposition of them talking about the traffic, but meanwhile they're doing this.
Yep.
Pulls in and I guess he's not the lighting guy, he's a director or assistant director. He says,
perv.
No, he's doing his job. He says, okay, can you put your hands, he says to the guy, can you put your hands on her breasts?
Okay.
So the guy does. So he's still simulating humping. He's completely dressed still.
Yep.
She has her top off. He has his hands on her breast, simulating humping. Now this is the line in the sand that Stacey, I'm already bothered, but this is where I just almost said, I can't watch this again. This is the line. So you've got the picture in your mind. Boy is completely clothed, humping behind the girl who's leaning over. She has her top off. The guy has his hands on her breasts. Then the assistant director says, can you now massage her breasts? Now, I've been around enough theater and movie things, and I haven't been around a lot, but I've been enough that whether or not his hands are squeezing or not doesn't change the lighting. Or your camera angle.
Oh, God.
I'm sitting there and I'm appalled. And this is the first time we meet them.
Yeah.
And that couple, it just got worse and worse.
Yeah. Now, I remember watching that whole scene, and these are some of the least developed characters in the entire piece. The joke of this whole storyline is that while they are simulating all of these incredibly intimate acts, they're just getting to know each other, and because they're doing this in a professional context, the emotional content of their conversations does not match what they're doing physically.
It's funny.
But at the very end of the thing, he asks her out on a date in a very sweet kind of way. But if the entire thing could have been filmed without us seeing her breasts or seeing him massaging her breasts, if everything had been shot from the shoulder up, you know, I mean, even if you didn't change it, it's the way that it was shot, because he also directed this movie, right? So the way that it was put together was all about putting her body on display. I agree. That's another tip. Here's another one. Yep. Colin Firth falls in love with a woman who does not speak. She speaks Portuguese. Why they're living in France, I don't know. But he's all depressed because his wife is fucking around.
I think it was a girlfriend. His girlfriend was caught with his brother. Okay.
So he's been cheated on. So he goes off to France to write a novel, as one does, I guess. And his basically someone drops by and says, "Here, we found you this woman. Like, seriously, like, here, have a woman." Right?
Well, no, it's a housekeeper.
A housekeeper, but they found her for. He did not seek her out. Someone like dropped her off.
No, well, the woman said that his regular person wasn't available.
Okay.
So
all right.
Okay.
Fine.
So,
but here she is. She doesn't speak a word of English. But when the wind picks up the pages of his novel and sends them into a lake, she disrobes, not completely, but she takes off a lot of her clothes.
You see her tramp stamp.
Okay. She takes off a lot. She gets under her underwear, dives into the pond to save his, like, as you do, whatever. In the winter, and he falls in love with her at that moment, and ends up later on in the movie proposing to her with the only words in Portuguese he knows, which is marry me. And she says yes. This is love? Fuck this. This is like this like they have no relationship. They cannot speak to one another.
When I was watching, and here's the thing about that, is that I'm watching those scenes again. I watched it last night, and it only works for the audience because we can read the translation.
Uh-huh.
So if you are, it really, if you think about him and her, it doesn't work at all.
No.
And so it was, for me, early on, when I watched it the very first time, I'm like, okay, I know what she's saying, but he doesn't, so he can't be charmed. He can't know that she's funny. That hit me early on. I couldn't go past that.
Yeah.
And yet I think people do.
Yeah.
But I couldn't because it was just the most bizarre thing. And you're exactly right. So he ends up leaving Marseille, which is where they are. And while he's gone, he learns some Portuguese, and then he goes back. This whole movie takes place in like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So then you have the Prime Minister.
Oh, God. Yeah, okay, so between the Prime Minister, Hugh Grant, Colin Firth as this novelist, Alan Rickman, who was Emma Thompson's husband, who we barely mentioned.
We haven't gotten to yet.
So there's 3 men right there, all falling in love with, wink, wink, because they don't even know these people, / fucking women who work for them. This is like a running theme throughout this entire movie is women with their bosses.
That's true.
Like it happens 3 times, and there's lots of weird, odd power differentials beyond that. But I mean, 3 of these vignettes are about men and the women who work for them. Which, in the era of #MeToo, I don't know if Love Actually is going to play a little differently this year to a lot of audiences. I hope so, because anyway.
Okay, let's get to the Prime Minister.
Okay.
So it's Hugh Grant as Prime Minister, which first is kind of weird because of his persona. Is this stumbling, bumbling guy, and you're like, how the hell did you get voted in as Prime Minister?
Okay.
I don't even Okay. So, but let's go past that. So he is, and he's single. He goes in to meet his staff for the first time. And I guess she's cook or assistant, I don't even know what her title is this cute little girl. What's her name?
Martine McCutcheon.
Okay.
As Natalie.
She's adorable, and I like her as an actress. But he immediately has the hots for her because as soon as
even though, according to this movie, she's fat.
Okay, let me get there. I'll get there in a second.
Okay.
So now what happens, and this I hate, this is a trope, this is bullshit trope to me, is when writers do this, in that so they want to show her as being quirky or whatever. So when they meet, something happens and she says a curse word. She's meeting the Prime Minister for the first time. And so everybody is looking at her, their eyes get really big because like, oh my gosh, and he thinks it's charming.
Yeah.
He thinks it's adorable that she's crass.
Okay.
Let's move past that. So then she comes in and another thing we find that he finds charming, we find out that she sometimes starts blabbing off and can't stop talking. And she her sister talks about how fat she is and she has big fat thighs. And I'm thinking this wouldn't happen. I don't think her cursing the first thing would have happened for her to get that position. And I also don't think that she would, it was, to me, it was unrealistic. Also unrealistic was the fact that there was no security. His 10 Downing Street, pretty chill. Every time we've watched West Wing or anything that has to do with the president's office, it's Adam Sorkin fast. You know what I mean? There is crap going on. The president has 2 minutes. The idea that he can but she walks in with tea and he says, come sit down. Let's talk for a bit. Are you effing kidding me? You've got a country to run. So, and there was little or no security around him at all.
I mean, this is clearly fantastical in its but, you have to suspend your disbelief a lot to watch every single one of these vignettes, but you're right, it gets to the point where you can't appreciate even the story they're trying to tell because it's so far away from reality.
Let me finish on that whole that you started about this one. In that, so she has said this to him about her sister says she's fat, whatever. He's like shaking his head going no, and by the way, as an audience member you're looking at her going, No, she's not Keira Knightley, but nobody else is that stick thin anyway.
No, yeah.
So she looks normal. She looks healthy, normal.
She's a size 4.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Wet. I don't even know what that means. That makes no sense there, but I'm throwing it out there. That would be poundage. That's not. Anyway, she looks normal. She looks fine, okay? So you already don't understand, but you ignore that until later on. For some stupid reason, he fired her because he was attracted to her.
Yes, which of course that's fair.
Exactly. But then he says he wants to find her because she sends him a card. Even though he's fired her, she sends him a Christmas card and a gift. So he's like,
As you do. Because you fired me because you were attracted to me because you're an asshole, so I'm going to send you a fucking card.
Right, and also, we forgot about the president, Billy Bob Thornton, hits on her.
Yes.
And she's uncomfortable. And that pisses off the prime minister. And he does end up doing some things as far as government-wise because he didn't like how the American president treated this girl. But she apologized to him. The girl, Natalie, apologized to the prime minister for the American president coming on to her.
Yeah.
And we just kind of blinked over that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Hugh Grant gets this card. He decides he's going to find her again. The prime minister wants to find this girl again. So he says to his real assistant, can you find me that girl? I think her name was Natalie. And she said, oh, the fat one with the big thighs.
Yep.
She wore dresses. How do you know how big her thighs are?
This movie classifies her as fat because that's funny, because we can make fat jokes about her that we can all laugh at, and we feel okay about it because she's not really fat, but it allows us to tell all these deeply offensive jokes.
But this woman, this assistant, who is also female, there's no way another woman is going to say, oh, you mean the fat one. There's no way.
No.
Not in a professional sense. And by the way, he leaves to go to a play at a public school. Literally, no security. I'm telling you, I'm surprised Britain's still around because he would.
And it sounds like we're just overthinking everything, but it's just all of this.
You can't get past it.
No, it's so glaringly it's so incompetently made. All of this just stupidity. And then, of course, there's that whole subplot. Bill Nye plays this guy who's trying to... Now, we've talked before, when we were coming up with our holiday playlist, there is a big deal in Britain about having the #1 song on Christmas Day. That's like a thing. So he's doing his drippy Christmas song, and there's a little bit of satire in there about how, serious musicians put out some shite around the Christmas holiday because they're trying to get to that #1 thing. But really, like 5 weeks before Christmas, you're recording your Christmas. I mean, even that, it was just like, okay, you would have made this record a long time ago. And there's no reason why you couldn't be like, okay, we made this record in June, but now we're going on Top of the Pops and we have to perform it or something. There's a way that you can do this that's just not stupid. And why is the prime minister and the American president in the same movie as these movie stand-ins who were sitting around, simulating humping? I mean, the whole thing. Oh, and we haven't even talked about the guy at the beginning who is going to go to America to score some snatch, and then comes back with a harem of American slutty blondes.
That's right.
What the fuck?
Charlie Sheen's ex-wife was the second one. That was But we also have to. Now they tried to tie to the other things really, really loosely. Emma Thompson is the prime minister. She's Hugh Grant's sister. Okay.
Fine.
But Emma Thompson's story is she and Alan Rickman seem like this nice little couple with a couple of kids. But at the office, this very aggressive young woman decides she's going to have the boss.
Yeah.
So she goes after him, which it was bullshit. Again, as a woman, I'm calling bullshit.
Because women
don't do this.
Yes, this is so we're just feeding into this idea. In this moment where we're now as a society kind of looking at sexual harassment. Now, we have this holiday classic, air quotes, scare quotes around classic, that depicts this woman who is going after the boss in this way, which does not have no one women do not ask for that kind of attention in the workplace. Very, very. I mean, it's just no.
But there's nothing she would get out of it. She's a secretary.
Yeah, he's
and
married.
He's married, but again, she aggressively goes after him, and
he's not Brad Pitt.
He's not Brad Pitt.
I mean,
he's
I love
nice
Alan
guy.
Rickman, but he's not. Yeah. I think he's sexy as hell because he's so talented, but not in this. I mean, this character, no.
And so, in the end, he buys her he buys her a necklace.
Yeah.
And that's what Emma finds. And
thinks it's for her.
Yes. And then realizes when she gets something else that it wasn't for her and he got it for someone else.
Yeah.
And so there's that drama.
Which is a beautifully acted scene in the closet where she goes away and has a cry because she realizes this is going on. I mean, Emma Thompson is an amazing actor.
Here's my thing. I had a problem because I was sitting there watching these awful things come out of her mouth. And I'm like, oh, Emma, because I love her so much. And she was saying crap.
Yeah.
I do feel like a lot of them, because it was British and it was Richard, what's his face? Curtis. That they were probably, there were a lot of favors. Mm-hmm. That's kind of, I feel like that too. Because then they have that weird scene where Rowan Atkinson is the shop guy.
Yeah.
And that's where Alan Rickman goes to get the necklace. Mm-hmm. And so they have then Rowan Atkinson play this ridiculous shop person. Pure comedy genius this was. It takes him, 5 minutes to wrap something. And that's hysterical. No, I didn't.
In another movie, maybe.
Yeah. Mr. Bean?
Yeah. I mean, if you're watching Mr. Bean, wrap a necklace, maybe. But it just didn't belong here.
No.
There's just, I go back to my original question, why? No one has ever been able to explain to me why they love this movie. And yet it's a classic. I mean, it shows up. People watch it every single year. I have friends of mine who now torture me on Facebook. They're like, guess what we're doing? We're watching Love Actually. And I'm like, why? And I just, I have just nightmares.
Now, what I had forgotten, do you realize that? So when the movie starts, it's this one day where Keira Knightley is getting married and Liam Neeson is burying his wife.
Yep.
So a funeral and a wedding are happening on the same day, 5 weeks before Christmas. Okay? Speaking of Liam Neeson, now his is not a romance per se. It is about him, after his wife dies, trying to forge a relationship with his stepson.
Yes.
His stepson has decided he's in love with this girl in his class.
Yeah. So who has the same name as his mother.
I'm moving past that.
I'm not, because I'm like, as soon as I heard that, I'm like, okay, you call a therapist for this boy to talk to. You don't encourage this kind of weird stalkery behavior.
So then they get into this weird stalkery behavior. Yes. And it's like, Liam, this is not, suddenly he's all up 24, we're all about this. This is going to be awesome.
I'm going to help my little stepson seduce a girl.
Yes.
How old are they?
They were 12, so seduction's probably not it. But it's like, get the girl, because he loves the girl, he says. So in the funeral scene, Liam Neeson, his wife had put together a photo montage. Yep. And he tells this, quote, joke, a funny thing you say in a memorial. So he said, yes, my wife said, something about Claudia Schiffer, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so that's 5 weeks later, and again, everybody kind of gets to that kids' Christmas production. All of the vignettes kind of get to the same place, so they're all there. Then they're at the Christmas production, 5 weeks after he's buried his wife. Claudia Schiffer shows up as a mom with a kid.
Yep.
And they do a bump in, a meet cute kind of thing. His stepson, whose mother died 5 weeks before, says, so are you going to, and he nudges Liam Neeson and he goes, does the kissing move? And I'm going, your mother is barely cold in her grave. And you're trying to get your stepfather laid.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it
goes on and on. People want to say, why don't you like it? We don't have the time.
No, it's awful. I mean, there's literally nothing to recommend this movie.
I have no redeeming quality.
No, none. It just, I really can't think of any.
At one point it ended.
Well, all things have to come to an end, thank God. No, and when this came out, I walked out of this movie with my friend Sally, and we just looked at each other like, is it just me, or was that a piece of crap? So that was a piece of crap. We went out for pie after watching Love Actually and coffee and sat around and enumerated a lot of these exact things, but all the reasons why this movie is utter crap. I have dear friends who watch it every single year, and I don't understand. I mean, it's not competently made. It's not romantic.
It does
it's
feel
anti-romantic.
It does feel very slapped together.
Yes.
It does feel very much that, which is amateur. Now, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to give you a little bit of a postscript. And I know you haven't seen it, but I saw the Red Nose Actually.
Oh, nothing could compel me to watch anything to do with it.
So, Red Nose Day back in March of this year.
Yep.
Comedy got together to get money for some charity, which I don't remember. I apologize. What Red Nose Day is for.
Good for them. Doesn't
matter.
Great.
The cast of Love Actually, most of the cast, because they didn't hit all of the stories, got together to do. It's about 10 to 12 minutes long, and you can find it on YouTube. It's called Red Nose Actually, and it's basically just kind of going through each of most of the vignettes and telling you where they are now. Okay. So in this,
did Keira Knightley end up with a stalker?
Well, what happens is Keira Knightley, we have a scene, and she and what's-his-face are sitting, her husband, are sitting there watching TV like they were. There's a knock at the door, and that guy, what's his name?
Andrew Lincoln.
Andrew Lincoln is there with a bunch of cards. And basically, and again, this was played for laughs because it's part of Red Nose Day. Yeah. So basically, he's talking about tell what's-his-face that it's carolers, and she says, I'm not going to do that, it's March. Nobody would believe that. And so then basically the cards are just saying, anyway, just wanted to let you know that, you remember I said I was going to marry a model, and she said yes. And he said, here's my wife, and it's Kate Moss. Okay. So Kate Moss comes, and Keira says, do you like his beard? And Kate Moss's card says, not really. So, so that's how that ended up. He ends up married to Kate Moss. Okay. That's the end of that story.
And they communicate with cards to this day.
I hope so. Colin Firth married the wife.
Of course he did.
And
do they speak the same language now?
She speaks English. He still doesn't speak Portuguese.
Of course. It's up to her to learn his fucking language. Okay.
And they have 3 kids, and they all can speak Portuguese. So the wife will still say things that he can't understand. And at the end, she tells him that she's pregnant again. Yep. And he doesn't understand Portuguese, but he acts like he does. So he's like, oh, okay, but this kind of time, can we have it with a side dish of something? Or I don't know, it's some kind of thing. Clearly, he didn't hear what she said.
That's adorable. Well, that's the movie, right? I mean, that's the entire point of that whole story. So go ahead.
Now, so then they ignored the porn stars. They ignored the guy who was going to go to America to get sex. Prime Minister, thank you. So apparently the best part of Love Actually and the Prime Minister is when he starts dancing to the songs. Yeah. So they have him now, Hugh Grant, dance to some song, but it's a rap song, and he ends up falling down the stairs. Oh, okay. Hi, Jinx. Hey. I was very Jack Tripper. So then his wife comes out.
Natalie.
And she says, were you dancing to blah, blah, whatever the song was? And he says, yes, and he's hunched over. He can't stand up. And she said, I told you shouldn't be doing that anymore. He said, I liked it better when you were my assistant. And that was the end of that.
Oh, of course. Richard Curtis has not grown an inch.
They also didn't do the Emma Thompson. And the reason that they didn't do an Emma Thompson one, Alan Rickman had passed already, but she refused to do it. She said, I'm not going to do it without Alan. She said, so I'm going to pass on doing Red Nose Day because he's gone. I'm not going to do it. It's also possible that she had just seen Love Actually and realized what a piece of shit it was.
I'm going to go with Plan B.
So who am I missing? Okay, Laura Linney. They gave her, you wanted her to have a happy ending. She did get a happy ending on this one. So the phone rings like it always did. And she's like, yes, darling, yada, yada, whatever, whatever. We go to the other side of the phone, and it is Dr. McDreamy from Grey's Anatomy.
Oh, Patrick Dempsey.
And that's her husband now. So they gave her that.
Okay.
Liam Neeson. So he's sitting there looking over the Thames like he was a lot, and his son comes, who's all grown up.
Yep.
And he's like, "Oh, you weren't supposed to be here yet. What are you doing here?" Yada yada. And they talk, blah blah blah. And the kid says, "Remember how I was in love with so and so?" And he said, "Oh my God, yes, that was a long time ago. She was probably the best one." And so suddenly here she comes, all grown up. They are getting married.
Okay.
And so everybody's happy there and all of this. No Claudia Schiffer, though, interestingly enough.
All right.
So anyway, all of that was condensed into this little short, as I said, about 10 minutes. And
okay, I'm glad I didn't say it because two of the things you said there actually still piss me off.
No, it wasn't good. Now, again, keep in mind that one was played for laughs because of Red Nose Day.
Yep.
But, it's one of those where I still hate the movie. I didn't like that very much, but no, you're exactly right. It didn't help.
No.
It just kind of is, it emphasized what was wrong with the movie.
Yep.
So anyway, people have asked for our take on Loathe Actually.
That's it.
That's it?
We got nothing good to say, people.
We
Merry
literally don't.
fucking Christmas.
But we gave you a lot of choices for good, fun things that make you happy.
We did. So my final diagnosis, I will watch Charlie Brown Christmas again this year.
Oh, hell yeah.
Every single year that'll happen. I think I need to go back and watch Elf again. Having this conversation really made me realize how great it was and how much I kind of miss it. So
remember the spaghetti and Coke, that's all I'm going to say. # spaghetti and Coke.
Yeah, so that's me. And again, this is the month where you do that. You pull those holiday classics out. I don't think this is an It's a Wonderful Life year for me.
Not for me. I saw it last year.
But I think Elf will probably get another
Elf
viewing.
And
Charlie Brown, I think I'm going to go there too.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Well, I wish everybody a very happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
You've been listening to Popperation with Eric and Stacey. Check out our website at popperationroom.com for links to our blog and other extras. Don't forget to subscribe to Popperation via iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, and other podcast locations. You can also follow at Popperation Room on Facebook and Twitter. Music provided by purpleplanet.com.